This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we get response to the International Court of Justice handing down its decision today at The Hague, we want to go right now to the State Department. The questioning of Matt Miller, State Department spokesperson, by the Associated Press reporter Matt Lee. This took place last week about Israel's demolition of Al-Isra University in Gaza.
I mean, it looks like a controlled demolition. It looks like what we do here in this country when we're taking down an old hotel or a stadium. And you have nothing to say? You have nothing to say about this? I mean, to do that kind of an explosion, you need to be in there. You have to put the explosives down, and it takes a lot of planning and preparation to do. And if there was a threat from this particular facility, they wouldn't have been able to do it.
So I have seen the video. I can tell you that it is something we are raising with the government of Israel, as we often do when we see
raising as
when we see to ask questions and find out what the underlying situation is, as we often do when we see reports of this nature. But I'm not able to characterize the actual facts on the ground before hearing that response.
Yeah, but you saw the video.
I did see the video. I don't know what was.
It looks like, you know, a bridge being imploded.
I don't know what was under that building. I don't know what was inside.
But it doesn't matter what was under the building, because they obviously got in there to put the explosives down to do it in the way that they did.
Again, I'm glad you have factual certainty about it. I just don't.
I don't. All I have is what I saw in the video.
I just don't.
And I think you guys saw it too.
Say, we did see it, and I can say that we have raised it with the government of Israel.
And it's not troubling to you?
We are always troubled by any degradation of civilian infrastructure in Gaza.
That's State Department spokesperson Matt Miller being questioned by the AP reporter Matt Lee. We're continuing our discussion and talking about facts on the ground in Gaza. We'll start with Professor Mahmood Mamdani, professor of government at Columbia University, the School of International and Public Affairs, SIPA, specializing in the study of colonialism. You are a professor, Mamdani. Professor Mamdani, if you can talk about the response of professors here to the destruction of universities, cultural spaces in Gaza, and the significance of this, and where you think this preliminary ruling of the ICJ, how you think it will affect what's being described today.
Well, I think the more facts come to light, the more Israel's actions in Gaza look like a textbook case of genocide. This calculated destruction of a people's intellectual resources and intellectual legacy is not something which just has a short-term impact or is based on a short-term consideration. It is aimed at a long-term resolution of this question. Already, there's considerable concern amongst faculty at Columbia University. For the last few days, I've been seeing emails going around with photographs of this, what the AP reporter called controlled demolition, premeditated demolition. And people are asking Columbia University to take action, to declare where they stand. And this will go on. One thing I'm struck by as sort of evidence mounts is that the court ruling relied on two sources of information. One was UN commissions, and the second was statements by Israeli leaders themselves. Nothing else. And in doing so, it followed almost strictly the South African application, because the South African application also drew its facts not from other sources, but from UN commissions. And now we have got a situation where the court has asked Israel to report back in a month and tell the court what it has done to comply with its decision, and given South Africa the right to comment on this report back by Israel. This is going to be another round of not just PR, because this is going to be a controlled process. So I think we are on to good territory. We are on to a territory which will bring more and more facts to light. And therefore, we are on to a territory which will permit increased political mobilization based on these facts, especially in the US and Israel, because these are the two countries where there has been minimal information in the mass media on what's been going on in Gaza. Now, this will become open territory.
I want to bring in Diana Buttu again as we begin to wrap the show. Yesterday, Ryan Grimm in The Intercept wrote, "I was at the State Department briefing today and asked if the U.S. would pledge not to veto the International Court of Justice's preliminary ruling on the genocide charges against Israel." If you can respond to what that means, what this process is, and again, what's happening on the ground now in Gaza with Israel dropping more leaflets on what was a safe space, which was Khan Yunis, and this parade of humanity and misery of hundreds, if not thousands, going south from Khan Yunis.
Well, Amy, I'm sure you saw the response, and the response was a typical American administration word salad. And the reason that I think it's so important for us to continue to press ahead is because what Israel has had in mind is two things since the beginning of this attack on Gaza. First, it has made it clear that it wants to make Gaza smaller in size, and they've made it clear that they want to, quote, thin out the population. So it's the combination of genocide and ethnic cleansing and taking more Palestinian land. And that's why from the beginning, it was clear to anybody who was paying attention that Israel was going to begin in the north, but then suddenly magically move to the south as everybody had looked the other way. And this is precisely what's happening. So now what Israel is doing is not only just dropping leaflets in Khan Yunis, there isn't a single place that has been safe in Gaza from day one. And the intention is clear. If you want to get medical treatment, even now or a day after the bombing ends, you're going to have to seek it elsewhere. If you want to get education, you're going to have to go elsewhere. If you want to have a home and have a normal life, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And so it's this combination of genocide and ethnic cleansing that Israel has been pushing forward from day one. And the problem is, of course, that the United States has been not only an enabler for Israel, but it's been blocking any other effort to try to stop this process of genocide and ethnic cleansing.
And the issue of this court decision, and we just have 10 seconds, going to the UN Security Council if violated.
Yes. So under the rules of the International Court of Justice, states must oblige, they're obliged to uphold the rules of the ICJ, the decisions. But if they do not, they can go to the UN Security Council. And so I suspect that we will be seeing this at the Security Council. The real question is whether the United States is going to use that veto or abstain.
We want to thank you all for being with us today. Diana Buttu, Palestinian human rights attorney, former advisor to the negotiating team of the Palestine Liberation Organization. In 2004, she was part of the legal team that won a case before the International Court of Justice, which ruled Israel's separation wall in the West Bank is illegal under international law. Speaking to us from Haifa, Israel, Raz Siegel, Israeli historian and professor of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Stockton University, and Mahmood Mamdani, professor of government at Columbia University. That does it for our show. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.